Okay, welcome everyone to the task force meeting. It's been a little while since we had one of these. So we have a full packed agenda this morning. We can give you a few updates on the TOPS work that we're doing, as well as some training that's coming up soon. And then Gitao from More Vision has kindly volunteered to facilitate a discussion for us on demo sites. So we'll jump straight in because we are a little bit tight on time this morning. Just a quick agenda, there we go, update on the ANRM activities, review of the task force survey results. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in their survey results, really helpful for us to just figure out how we can best use the task force moving forward. A couple of announcements from any other members, and then we'll move on to Gitao's presentation. So at this point, I will hand over to Eric. I think most of you already know, but Eric, who was based in DC, is now based in Uganda and has a specific regional focus on the work that we're doing. So I'll hand it over to you, Eric, at this point to give us a quick update on just kind of the focus of your activities and what you're doing right now.
Thanks, Andrea. As Andrea said, I just relocated to Kampala, Uganda at the beginning of February, and at this time I'm now the Regional Agriculture Specialist still with the TOPS program. But I wanted just to share a little bit about what our focus is in the region, and then definitely encourage future conversations with anybody about that. So my focus is on East and Southern Africa. And that really we want to make sure that we have a greater field and headquarter focus. So a lot of the last couple of years we've had the task force and a lot of activities at the headquarters. But we're hoping with me relocated out in the region that Andrea, Abby, and I can work together to increase the knowledge application and knowledge sharing components of TOPS in the region, but also have a stronger link of knowledge sharing between field and headquarters staff and programs. And so I'll still be supporting some of the TOPS trainings. Last month, we had a permagarden TOT in Ethiopia, and we've been able to have a couple trainings so far. We have a training this week that's a replication. So it's one of the participants from Tufts University is replicating it this week in Ethiopia, and then we have CRS who's planning a replication in the near future, and then a few others that are in the works. So we're excited to see some replication from the training. And we're trying to think more creatively of how we can track this and see the effectiveness of these replications within programs. Also, I'll be focusing on local and regional networks. And so right now I'm kind of in an assessment phase of what the programs in East and Southern Africa, what are their technical resources of local organizations, and what is that knowledge sharing communication happening. So I'm right now just kind of researching what networks are existing and what technical resources are available to do that program. So one thing I would love to hear from other people in future calls is what organizations you're partnering with in the region in East and Southern Africa, especially around sustainable agriculture, resilient design, and also what areas do you think your organization in the field could benefit from in a network or in future partnerships. In an informal way. So we're not really looking at the formal partnership, but more of an informal technical partnership. So it's been a great 2 months, and I look forward to the next year and a half with the TOPS program out in the region as we work on the extension. And I encourage anybody to reach out to me with any questions or ideas of what we could do.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric.
If any questions, they can write in the chat box.
Yeah, and actually I forgot already to do something. So that was when we get to World Vision's Gitao's presentation, we will hand over microphone ability to all of you. So you'll see a little green icon in the top of your screen when you have the ability to talk via microphone. So we will be having a discussion at that point. If you would like to talk, if you could just mute after, so it just prevents the feedback when you're not talking. All right, perfect. Abby can help us with that, I think, as we move forward. So I think most of you have already been in contact with Abby via email and through the task force, but Abby joined us almost 3 months ago now and is based in Washington, D.C. with Eric moving out into the region. So Abby is helping us on pretty much all of the work that we're doing on TOPS, but has a couple of key focal areas, and one of those is developing some resource lists linked to our core competencies that some of you worked on previously a couple of years ago. So Abby, do you want to just give us a quick update on kind of what that looks like?
Yes, hi everyone. As Andrea said, I joined the team a few months ago and I'm very happy to be a part of the TOPS program here in DC. And as Andrea said, one of my focal points right now is developing a core competencies resource list. So for each of those core competencies under the ANRM program manager position, we have probably 30 to 40 different core competency areas. And for each of those, we're kind of compiling a list of key documents or toolkits or manuals, technical manuals or guides for particularly practitioners to access so that they can know that this list of resources has been vetted and is worth their time to read. And so we've been working for the past few months on kind of module number 1, which is the technologies for ecological resilience, and have started to put that list together and has kind of been reviewed internally between Andrea, Eric, and I, and now it is time to invite the task force members to engage in the review of that list. And so after the call today, I'm going to send around kind of our draft of resources for the core competency area of technologies for agroecological resilience, and would love to hear your feedback. There will be more information in the email as well as the list of resources and links to access all of them. But this is a way for you guys to provide your technical expertise. If there's anything we missed or something you think isn't going to be valuable to your field staff, that would be great for us to know. And we look forward to receiving your feedback. And we'll continue developing these kind of modules as they become available, and we'll put them out to the task force for review before sharing them with the larger community. So again, feel free to write in the chat box if you have any questions, and you'll receive more information about that later.
Thanks, Abby. And I see there's some questions come up in chat box that Eric's answering already, so that's great. If you have any questions for Abby on the core competencies, please put them in there, or you can send us an email after, but she will be following up after the call, as she said. Okay, so then one other piece on the resilience design in smallholder farming systems. I think many of you already know the work that we've been doing on that recently, together with Tom Cole, Brad Lancaster, and Warren Brush. So this focus is basically looking at kind of soil and water implementation, conservation ag techniques, things like that, but asking people to take a step back from implementing strategies to really take a moment to kind of understand and observe some of the patterns on the ground, apply some principles based on those patterns to then kind of help select some better strategies on soil and water and agroecological principles. So that's been quite a big focus of our work recently. We have a training in Zimbabwe between the 4th and the 8th of April. And then coming out of that, we'll hopefully have a toolkit that will have some training materials a little bit similar to the Permagarden toolkit, if you're aware of that one, that will just to help to give some more information on what that is and help people rolling out some of that training and information later. So we'll just be giving you updates on that over the coming months as we have more of our task force meetings. And then just one general, for TOPS, our next knowledge sharing meeting is going to be in Uganda in September. I think the dates are almost confirmed for the 20th, 21st and 22nd, I think it is. They're not absolutely confirmed, but we're pretty much there. There is a survey out there with a link that's been sent out by the task force. So if you haven't already provided your input into that, please do. I think it closes today. So that will just help us develop some focus for the sessions that we're doing out in Uganda in September. Okay, so then the next piece that we just wanted to do before handing over to Guitar was really just give you a quick summary of the survey results. We really appreciated the time and effort you put into sending us feedback. With our annual planning in September, the end of last year, we kind of wanted to just take a bit of a look again at the task force with the idea of the 1.5-year extension that we've got. Just check if what we're doing is worthwhile and how we can improve what we're doing on the task force meetings. So, Abby, do you want to just give us a quick summary of the survey results?
Yes, thanks, Andrea, and thanks again, everyone who took the time to fill out the survey. Being new to the team, it was really helpful for me to see kind of what you guys are interested in about the task force, what value it adds to your work, and how we can incorporate that moving forward. And so a few of the key things that came out of it were you guys found that reviewing and learning about key documents, tools, and trainings was the most beneficial thing about the task force. Additionally, attending presentations or webinars on technical topics. And so I'll talk in just a minute, kind of moving forward, how we're hoping to integrate those that feedback and those responses into our plans moving forward. The resounding answer for what makes the ANRM task force unique was that it is a small group that's focused on DFAPs and paper peace in particular, and so that makes sense, and it's good to hear that it is providing some value to your professional work. And then you guys also voted to meet quarterly, so again, we'll kind of keep that in mind moving forward. And then kind of what we should focus on in the next 18 months. We had a wide range of responses to that question. I only listed out a few of them here, but it's clear that you guys have varying interests and a lot of ideas for how we can focus as we move forward. And so we're hoping that given the feedback on your desire to review the technical tools and documents, we're hoping the core competencies resource list will allow you to do that and kind of engage the task force members in reviewing these tools and documents and providing input for what goes out to the broader community. And then we're hoping, like today with details presenting on demonstration plots, that we can invite the task force members to kind of collaborate and present in our task force meetings as they want to. And so that being said, as we move forward from here, we are planning to meet quarterly, and if there's a topic that you feel that you want to present on or get feedback on or share with the task force members, please let us know. We are definitely open to having various people present or lead discussions during our task force meetings so that we can kind of cover these various topics that you're interested in, anything from off-farm livelihoods to young mom and dads to inclusive value chains. So it's kind of all over the board. And so, yeah, if you are interested in speaking at our next meeting, or if you want to host kind of a webinar discussion or something around one of these topics, please let us know and we can try and work that into our schedule. And so, yeah, with that, Andrea, I think that's pretty much the results that I have to share. If anyone has any questions, again, feel free to write in the chat box.
Thank you, Abby. Yeah, and so, like Abby said, I think two of the key pieces that we picked up were opportunities to kind of review useful tools. So we're hoping that the core competencies, a resource list will do some of that, and then obviously having some technical pieces to the task force meetings and discussing some technical focus. So GitHub is helping us with that one today. And please do let us know if you're interested in sharing information as we move forward. Okay, just a reminder that there were a couple of papers that were shared via the email, I think it was last week, on hybrid farmer field schools and farmer-to-farmer approaches by ACDI VOCA. No, sorry, ADRA it was. And so that was great information sharing. I don't think Giusimo is on the call today, but He's on another call, but that was really great for him to share those. And I think if any others have anything that they'd like to share, then please, you can either email us directly and we can share it around, or please feel free to share it amongst the group as well. I don't know if anyone has any other specific updates that they would like to share. You could write them in the chat box. Just give you a second in case anyone has any thoughts on that. If not, then I think we'll move on. And yeah, you can just let us know. And then we'll have our next meeting. We'll have those meetings quarterly, so ahead of time we'll ask for any updates from the task force members as well that we can include here. Okay, so that's the really interesting part of today. We're really happy to have Gitao present for us today. So Gitao is the Senior Technical Advisor for Agriculture and Natural Resource Management at World Vision. He's responsible for leading relevant aspects of the program design and providing technical oversight for grant-funded projects. He was born and raised in the Central Highlands of Kenya, just outside of Nairobi, and he has 15 years experience in agricultural development. He's worked in various technical and managerial roles and been field-based. And currently, Gitao directly supports integrated food security programs in Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, Niger, DRC, and Uganda. So lots of experience. Gitao holds a degree in agriculture from the Africa University in Zimbabwe and a master's in resource economics from the University of Delaware. Something I didn't know about Gitao is that he loves soccer and is an avid Barcelona and Chelsea fan. I think we need to speak to Gitao about being a Chelsea fan. But I also enjoy biking and hiking. And so Gitao has offered to lead a discussion on demonstration plots. This is something that I know that USAID Food for Peace are also very interested in because it factors into so many of the DFAP implementation programs and is all of them have various challenges and all of them are done in very slightly different ways. So we really appreciate Gitao leading this discussion for us. If there's a large interest in continuing this discussion, we can set up some space on our FSN Network website, set up an interest group or discussion group, and we can continue the discussion there. So at this point, Gitao, I'm going to hand over to you, and thank you very much for your presentation.
Hello, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? If you can, all right, wonderful. Good. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks for the introduction. It's been a bad season for Chelsea. I'm really tempted to sit down and discuss opting out, but we'll see how next season goes. But thanks for the presentation, for the opportunity to present. Just a note, as you mentioned, I'm a graduate of Africa University in Tare in Zimbabwe, so I'm really looking forward to the training that we're going to be doing there from the 4th to the 8th of April. That's going to be, it's going to take me some years back. I've been supporting that program in Zimbabwe. We've had calls with them recently as they struggled through the drought caused by the El Nino phenomena. And it's been interesting to see just the challenges that they've had, especially on the management of demo plots. They established, I think it was about over 66 demo plots at the beginning of the season, and a lot of those demo plots have struggled because of the drought. And partly, there's a lot of lessons to be learned even when the demo plots haven't done well. But I don't feel like this is unique to the Ensure program in Zimbabwe. As we go through my presentation, I'm going to share some of my observations on what I've seen on management of demo plots in other programs in other countries as well over the years. And I'd very much like to hear from other people what their experience has been, what they see as some of the common challenges, and what are some good examples, maybe even some best practices on how to improve the management of demonstration plots. So I'll take a few minutes to go through some slides, and then hopefully we can have a discussion at the end. So let's move forward. And if you have any questions, again, please feel free to type those in the chat box, and I can try and address those as we go. So I think, as Andrea mentioned, I'd say almost all DFAPs that have an ag component, and tends to be all, have demonstration plots. It's a centerpiece of farmer field schools. They are at the very heart of knowledge and skills transfer to farmers. And so it's a very essential piece to get right. But it's something that I feel program staff struggle with. Implementation of demonstration plots can be tricky for a variety of reasons. I've attached a picture here from my days in Malawi working on the WALA program, which has since ended. And these pictures were actually taken by Mike DeFries, who used to work for CARE, but was doing the midterm evaluation for WALA. And an observation was made just about the persuasiveness of the demonstration plots that the project had established. Obviously, some demo plots were quite persuasive, like the one on the left. There's a big difference between what the practices that the project is promoting and the traditional practices from farmers in the area. But then the one on the right, it's on the same program, in maybe a different geographic area and a different farmer group managing it, but it's not quite as convincing. And so I find that this is an issue. There's just a lot of inconsistency across projects and even within projects on the effectiveness, just the way the quality of presentation in these demonstration plots can leave a lot to be desired at times. And when I looked around, I've been interested in this subject, and I don't find that there's a lot of material or guidelines that can help DFAP staff figure out how to improve the management of demonstration plots. There is quite a bit of information on the technical design of trial plots, and we'll look at the difference between trial plots and demonstration plots. But a lot of times the challenges have to do with operational side of things, the planning, the monitoring, working even with the lead farmers, making sure you have the right location and that kind of thing. So I am hoping that over the next few months that we can explore this issue further. I'm hoping that we'll get to a point whereby we have better guidelines available. I'm hoping to submit microgrant application to TOPS looking at this issue. But even aside from that, I think it will be an important topic for us to address. So just moving on to the second slide, one of the things that I've noticed is that there's no clear definition of what a demonstration plot is. There's two main types of demonstrations. One could be a demonstration of proven practices. So, for example, if conservation agriculture has been proven, or intercropping or rotational cropping has been proven in an area, and it's a new concept to farmers in that area, then it can be, the project can embark on setting up demonstration plots to show that. In other cases, you have demonstration plots that are really trials, and sometimes these are done in collaboration with research institutions. And those ones can be trying out different varieties, and this is especially relevant now with the challenges of climate change. There's a lot of resilient crop varieties that are coming out that projects get involved in doing trials, working with researchers on that. But one of the things that I find is that the difference is not always clear. There's also single intervention or multiple intervention demonstrations, and this could affect how long all the demonstration will be done. The demonstration could be just one season, 1 year, or multiple seasons. And the management of those kind of demonstration plots takes a different tactic depending on the purpose and the design of it. Then, of course, you have individual farmer demonstrations or block demonstrations where you're trying to kind of try out a treatment across different parcels owned by different farmers. And sometimes farmers will aggregate their land and try and have a contiguous parcel that kind of showcases a replication of different treatments. One thing that seems clear to me is that the DFAP staff sometimes are not able to clarify well enough what the purpose of the demonstration plots is. There might be a really good understanding at kind of the managers level, the technical specialists level, but as the demonstrations and the information on how to set them up is cascaded down, you find that the understanding is not as clear, and that affects the execution and, of course, the outcome of those demonstrations. So I've tried to put this table together to just list some of the factors that influence the success of demonstration plots. What I found out is, the factors, the success factors also tend to be challenges. So it's the flip side of what works and then why that doesn't work. So we've talked about the clarity of purpose of the demonstration plot. That can be difficult and that can affect the design. And this is an area that I think I feel our programs could use continuous support. I think partnerships with research institutions, whether it's the likes of ICRISAT or CIAT, or even sometimes Harvest Plus, have been able to support our programs on setting up demonstrations that are not necessarily trials, is really helpful. But a whole lot more needs to be done to support implementation in that area. Another issue is the selection of practices to be demonstrated. Some programs have very clear, well-defined CSA practices, whether it's conservation agriculture or whether it's agroforestry or reforestation. They can be clear on what they want to do, but sometimes there isn't enough consultation on what the farmers would really like to see demonstrated or what they'd like to prioritize. And I think this was mentioned in the TOPS Farmer Field School Guide, the technical note that was released, I think, last year, about just the importance of doing this needs assessment to make sure that there's alignment of expectations between farmers' ideas and needs and also project-led activities. And also sometimes just the number of practices to be demonstrated can be overwhelming. It's not unusual to find projects that are doing quite a bit in crop management and also in animal husbandry, and trying to fit all these practices into demonstration plots across all sites can be rather challenging. Budgeting and logistical planning seems to be an issue in many of the programs that I've worked with. A big issue now is, timing the planting, making sure the field preparation is done on time, and making sure that the inputs that are required for that are delivered on time. A part of it depends on what the agreement is with the community. Some projects are able to successfully convince farmers to invest their own inputs in demonstration plots, and that, of course, is desirable and more sustainable. It may affect the selection of the lead farmers and the location of the demonstration plots, but in many cases, projects have to provide some inputs for the demonstration plots. And the procurement process, the planning around that can be complicated, and there can be delays in the process that end up affecting how the demonstration plot is set up. Accessibility, just making sure that the location of the demo plot works not just for farmers within the area, but also for socially marginalized groups is an issue. We've been talking about, making sure that we account for integration of people with disabilities, and also to think about the labor burden and the participation of women as either as lead farmers and also as participants in some of these farmer field schools and demonstration plots. And that seems to be still an issue. I don't feel like there's pretty good guidelines on how to plan around that and to make sure that those kind of issues are well addressed. Signboards and record keeping tend to be a problem. If this is done well, then it's very clear what the demonstration plot is presenting, and the records to support that are easy to understand, and it's easy to gather information and do analysis that is meaningful down the road. But again, depending on the literacy levels of the participants at the demonstration plot, that could be problematic. The branding and marking requirements for demonstration plots present some challenges on cost effectiveness. People feel it's too expensive to have all these signboards at demonstration plots, and so it's not unusual to see demonstration plots where there's not adequate signage on what's being shown. I think I mentioned a bit about risk mitigation, drought, prevalence of drought incidents. I think that continues to be a challenge for programs. But there are other factors as well, and in one of the resources that I've attached at the end of the presentation, I think it's CCAF that looked at this in Uganda, and they found that there are things like theft and stray animals affecting these demonstration plots, which can make it pretty difficult to guarantee the desired outcome. And then the consistency in evaluation, the dissemination of results is tied to, again, the record keeping. Just being able to agree on whether we are going to do conservation agriculture demos across all sites or all districts or all places where the project is being implemented, or whether we allow for some variation, and then what we do with that information at the end of the season tends to be a challenge. Again, the sustainability issue is difficult. Programs run support demonstration plots well. There isn't much evidence to show that these demonstration plots and the learning around that continues after the project ends. And that could be another area that we could look at and see how we can support our programs. And so just having shared those observations from my own experience, I'm very interested in hearing those from the rest of the group. I've listed some questions here, just trying to guide the discussion. There's kind of three areas, looking for examples of well-managed demonstration plots or best practices, and also trying to get a feel of what kind of guidelines are out there, what kind of resources our organizations are using, and what are some of the common challenges. Are they the same challenges as we've observed, and what could be the lessons that we are learning from that? So I'm hoping we can have a discussion based on this. These other questions that I don't think we'll have time to get into today, but I hope that we can continue this discussion beyond this meeting. Just looking at some of the ways that programs are accounting for increased risks due to climate change, the issue of gender integration and social inclusivity, and also just trying to understand what are the technical and operation capacity gaps that exist that need to be addressed in other organizations. And then lastly, there's just some resources that I've listed there. There's the article from CCAF about some evaluation of demonstration plots they did with farmers in Uganda. This was kind of a rare example of an evaluation of the effectiveness of demonstration plots that was done in Afghanistan from a USAID program back in 2006. And then there's, I think, a useful resource from Cornell University on the design of different demonstration plots that can be useful for our program staff. I think there's a variety of resources out there, and that's part of the reason why I feel it would be helpful to review those resources and try and compile something that's more user-friendly for Food for Peace implementers. But that's those just examples of some of the things that I've come across, and I'd be happy to hear what other examples are out there. So I'll stop there and just leave these questions up about learning together, and welcome your views, questions, and hope we have a rich discussion on this. Thank you.
It's a great presentation. So if anyone has any questions or anyone would like to share any information, you can just click the little microphone button at the top and the top of your picture, top of your screen, sorry, and it should you should be able to speak. Okay, so I had a question actually for you on, I don't know if you've, I guess, I'm not sure if this is tied up in the demonstration site plot, but whether this is kind of the next stage, but I wondered if you'd seen any kind of behavior change, barrier analysis type work done as part of the demonstration site, you know, just trying to get at, so if it does work, why people are or not picking up the information. Did you come across any of that in your work?
Thanks, Andrea. No, not really. I still feel like the agriculture, natural resource management field is yet to fully embrace barrier analysis. I think we've done, you know, the designing for behavior change, the DBC training a number of times. I've only come across very few examples where program staff have actually gone out and done barrier analysis. It could be that, you know, the studies are still being done. I haven't come across one specifically looking at this issue of adoption and trying to see, even sometimes the monitoring of the lead farmers would be interesting to just understand why are some lead farmers so fully engaged in managing their demonstration plots, where others seem to be kind of falling behind, and that affects the quality of the demonstration. So I think it'd be an interesting area to look at, and I suspect that as we see more and more results coming in from barrier analysis studies on agriculture behaviors, that at some point this is going to be an issue of interest, and hopefully we're going to see something coming through that will give us more information. But so far, not much at all, if anything.
So yeah, I kind of was, we've seen the same things actually on top, that it still tends to be more tied to the nutrition side of what we're doing, but it obviously has such a close link with the demonstration sites and the farmer field schools. Okay, great. So anyone else have any thoughts or would like to share some experiences? Sophia, Dan, Maria, Nestor, I don't know if you guys have already been working with the demonstration sites at all.
Does World Vision have a standard way of working with lead farmers globally? I know different organizations have different policies of what benefits a lead farmer might get, and in different contexts, you know, that those incentives can lead the demonstration plots in a positive way or a negative way. I didn't know if World Vision has an overall policy or if that's left into the country or program level.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a standard that cuts across all countries. What I tend to see is there's a bit of consultation. If a program, for example, is in Malawi, they tend to participate in platforms with other NGOs, and so there might be kind of a standard that's been developed and agreed about in that context, either nationally or regionally. And then a lot of it also depends on the budget and the design of the programs. But I don't think there's kind of a standard approach. I think that the desire is always to provide minimal input and try and make it as sustainable as possible. In other words, try and get as much contribution and participation from the community, sometimes from private sector as well. They're very good at supporting demonstration plots that help create greater awareness of new varieties. But that varies. Some programs end up having to even use food for work or even cash for work to as incentives for management of demonstration plots, especially when they are block demonstrations. But I don't think that that's consistent across the board.
I think that might be an interesting thing in the small grant if you are able to kind of look at different ways lead farmers are engaged, incentivized, because it's one of those that what one organization does impacts another. In a similar way, I know Mercy Corps was having trouble getting government officials to trainings because the UN was also holding meetings, and the UN has a higher per diem, and so they were pulling people away because of that. So one organization, how they incentivize the lead farmer, I'd be interested if that impacted other organizations in the region or the country. And if we could figure out a way that, even within a country, that we work together to determine what's the best way to engage and work with lead farmers.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that would be a very interesting point to look at. One of the things I'm hoping we can do is just engage other organizations that we work with, even in the countries where we have DFAPs and even beyond that, to just get a sense of what are the different approaches for incentivizing lead farmers, and that I'm sure has a direct effect on just the quality and the sustainability of this demonstration plot. So that's a point well taken.
Your point, Guitar, as well about engaging farmers and deciding on the trials is a really key one. I think sometimes we kind of, in the rush to get the project done, we do these trainings, demonstration sites or farmer field school sites over things that we think farmers should be understanding and knowing, and obviously that also ties into how successful they are. And how much incentivization the lead farmers may or may not need, kind of all really stems, I guess, from how useful it is. So I think that whole piece is really, really key.
Yeah, totally agree, Andrea. I think it will be interesting to see, and I'm hoping that we can gather enough information to share at either the learning event or depending on how long it takes to compile some guidelines around this at some point even in the next task force. I think I've come across some research just trying to see what's the effect of the different methodologies of working with farmers. There's some evaluations of farmer field schools. But I don't know. I feel like the most immediate need for our programs is to equip our staff with the tools that they need to do this better. And so even creating simple tools that people can use to do the needs assessment and trying to provide examples of how that information is gathered from the field level all the way to like a technical working group that's working at the central level and how that helps planning to make sure that the needs of farmers are integrated in the demonstration plots is really, really important. So yeah, any other comments or any other contributions, especially on some of the challenges? Are those challenges that that the other organizations face? Is there anything that's prevalent out there that's unusual or unique to your setting? Okay, all right. Well, again, thank you. I think this is just I appreciate the opportunity to share, and I'm really hoping that we can engage further on this issue, seek people out as well, just follow up with organizations and kind of try to get a sense. And really look forward to continuing this dialogue and sharing more on this issue as we go.
Presentation and start this discussion.
How about you?
I think it's a really key area for many of our defects. So if people are more interested in this topic more, then please let us know via email, and we can set up a chat site on this XM network. Can you hear me okay? You can see that. No. Okay, we're good. So we can set up some space on the FSM network, particularly around maybe collating some resources that people use to feed into some other work that Qatar is doing. So yeah, so please let us know by email if you're interested. We will be sending out more information via the task force website as we move forward. Okay, so I think we're about at the end of our call. Unless anyone has any other comments or pieces of information, Abby, Eric, I'm not sure if you have anything else to add.
Nothing else from me.
Okay.
But I'm putting my in the box in case someone wants to follow up with any questions specifically.
Great, thanks, Eric. So Eric's email is in the chat box there, if anyone wants to follow up specifically on some of the regional work. Okay, thanks everyone for your time. We'll be sending out the presentation, a link to the presentation that'll be up on our website, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks very much. Have a good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Okay, thanks. Bye.